in 2020. I've got a little update I'm going to give you, and then we're going to jump right into the live questions. That's what this one is all about. So as you're tuning in, as always, I want you guys to make sure you comment below where you're tuning in from. Now, we've started 10 a.m. right now, which I'm hoping is going to give the biggest reach for everything that we do. But we'll just see. Depends on how many volumes of people show up for these, if 10 o'clock is going to be the time that we're going to stick with. But I think, generally speaking, it's going to be pretty good. All right, so let's give a shout out to a couple of people who are tuning in. Ravi's joining in. Looks like everything is going well. Good afternoon to you too, Abbas. And Abbas is tuning in from Toronto. We've got Kashmir. Awesome. Mixed Video Mentor. What's your name, Mixed Video Mentor? You guys are quite funny. I'm just gonna expand that just a little bit. So those of you who are tuning in for the first time and you're wondering what this is all about, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Canadian Immigration Institute, and you click on that bell so that you get a notification when I go live. I've had a bunch of issues that were preventing me from doing a good solid video last week, but I think we're in business today. It looks like everybody that's been jumping on here, it seems like everything is set up great. So, like I said, I'm going to announce a little bit of, well, we know this morning there was a new draw. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about this new round of invitation for express entry. But guys, this is about any immigration related question that you want to talk about. Now, I don't do a lot of asylum or refugee stuff, so I'll probably skip past that. One other little housekeeping matter is these questions need to be beneficial to everybody that's chiming in here. So if you ask a very specific question that's only related to you and your situation, and it's really what I would classify as legal advice, then you're going to hear that little bell. That's probably pretty loud. That basically indicates it's not something that I can provide an answer to you. It would have to be done through a paid consultation. And the reason I do that is because I want to make this the most benefit I possibly can to all the people that are watching. So when one person asks a question that I know many other people want to have the answer to, then that's the perfect question I'm going to choose. I won't get to everybody's questions, as you guys are all very, very well aware, but I have slowly been building my library of questions that I'm going to be releasing out in short little video segments that are easier for you guys to consume in the playlists below on the YouTube channel. You guys that are watching this on Facebook and Periscope, I love you just as much, but it doesn't allow me to organize the videos and make them easier for people who are watching them as a recording. So I'm broadcasting through Restream, my third-party app, to Facebook and to Twitter, the Periscope version, and to YouTube. But YouTube is really where the information is going to be housed because it's just easier to search and find stuff, right? Which makes sense. So as we go forward here, I do want to share a few things with you, but those of you who are in a situation where you're wondering, okay, Mark, I want to, let me just see if I can pull this up here. I think I can. Yeah, that works. Well, it's not perfect, but let's just adjust this just a little bit so that the screen is a little bit better. There we go. We'll stick me right there. Those of you who have questions that don't get answered, you have other options, obviously. One of the easiest ways to reach out to get actual legal advice is to click on the Start Here button right on our website, which is holthelaw.com, and you can go right to the bottom here and choose the lawyer that you want to book your appointment with. And so if one of us is not available, then go to another one, and we're here to help you in any way we can. Remember, Alicia and Susan, as I say to you guys all the time, they're smarter than I am. So do not feel that if you can't book a consult with me, that taking a consult with either Susan or Alicia is somehow a step down, because it is not. They're awesome. All right, so back to what we're talking about today. Let's give some shout outs to all of the awesome people that are tuning in. We got Ralph, who is here again. Kings, good to see you, my friend. We've got Ravi, he's in Toronto. Danyar is excuse me. Kyrgyzstan. Awesome. Thanks for joining. We got Fazia. And then this is awesome. Kakshem is already asking, why not CEC? Okay, we're going to get to that in a little bit. We'll give a few more shout outs here to the people who are posting in. Sanjay is in Dubai. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about this latest round of invitations that we've just had this morning. Guys, what's today? Today is Wednesday. It's the day for rounds of invitations. All right. Kings is in Regina. We've got Gail's in Belgium. We got a really good mix here. Hi, Rami. Good to see you. Naki is in the UAE. Tolulupe, good to see you. Thanks for joining. We've got a really, really good group of people. We've got Jasmeet, Indian representation. Perfect. Okay. And then Rohit says, today is much more perfect as compared to the previous week. Yes, it is. I am very, very glad. Okay, let's see here what else we have. Let's see here. Okay, we've got people from all over. Okay, so let's flip gears, and I want to talk about specifically. I want to talk about the latest draw. So let's flip over here to this other page. And those of you who watch Express Entry are anxiously awaiting your opportunity to be able to qualify. You can see as of today, so this is where you go, Express Entry rounds of invitations. If you want to search for it yourself, you can then bookmark this page. And you'll see here that there was a draw, and we'll get down to the information right here today, September the 30th, just before we went live. So the number of invitations was actually really large, 4,200. And the lowest candidate invited was 471 comprehensive ranking system points. I want to put this into context for you guys. So this is where we're going to have a little bit of fun this morning before we get to the live Q&A session. I am going to type in here. Let me just see if I can get this straight. We're going to go here to the CRS tool, and I want to show you guys something. So this is where I always go to calculate scores for my clients. I don't have my own calculator. What's the point? The Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada website is all that I need. So I go here. So we're going to go through and we're going to just fill this in really quick. And I'm going to show you guys, if I can keep my mic in the right spot here. I think that'll probably work there. Okay, so we're going to go through this and I'm going to show you guys what 471 really means. And this is for all of you out there who are wondering how this works. I'm going to show you what this really means. So we're going to use a fictitious person. Married, we're going to say single, just to keep it simple. How old are you? We're going to say you're 29. Why 29? Because 29 years old is the last age before you start losing points. Once you hit 30, you lose 5 points. Next, do you have any Canadian? So do you have education? Excuse me. We're going to choose a master's degree or professional degree. Have you earned anything in Canada? No. So we're targeting people outside of Canada. Official language? Yes. And we're going to go with the base limit. So we're going to go with the Ielts. And guys, if you do not have a CLB 9, which means speaking 7, listening 8, reading 7, writing 7, you won't have a prayer of immigrating to Canada through Express Entry if you don't have at least a CLB 9. And that's really what this score is on the Ielts. Okay, so let's keep going. At this stage, no other tests. Work experience, do you have any in Canada? Nope, because you guys are all outside Canada. In the last 10 years, do you have any foreign work experience? Yes. And we're going to put 3 years. If you do not have 3 years, don't even waste your time when it comes to being outside of Canada with no connection to Canada. So this is what we're creating. We're creating a person who has skilled work experience, has good education, good language, but has no connection with Canada. No work experience, no family, and they only speak English. All right, so continuing on, this is a no certificate of qualification, no job offer. I'm not even going to get into this. Job offers essentially are an LMIA-based offer from a Canadian company, or you're under the International Mobility Program, but we'll skip through that. No, you do not have a nomination, and no, you do not have a sibling in Canada. What is the score going to be? Well, post in the comments below what you think this score is going to be on the CRS. Those of you who watch this carefully will be able to punch this in really quick and really easily. So post in the comments below what you think this CRS score is going to be before I click calculate score. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to type it in, what you think it is going to be. No cheaters. No cheaters, okay? Guess, and then we'll reveal. All right, let's do it. I'm calculating the score. Now I'm going to scroll down and let's see. So you can see all the points are being tabulated, and dun, 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 469 points. Okay, what does that mean, you guys? Well, what it means is if you are 29 years old, 3 years of skilled work experience abroad, you have a CLB 9, okay, so you've got 8777, those magical digits, you've got a master's degree, you are still not going to qualify to immigrate to Canada. And what does that mean? A CLB 9, 877 is not enough. Now, obviously, if someone tries to go and take their master's degree and go one step further and get a PhD, yes, that will help. But understand, it's going to take 1, 2, 3 years or more, and then you're losing points. 5, 10, 15 points because you're turning 30, 31, 32. So do you guys see how competitive this is without having some form of Canadian experience? So let's take it to the total that we have today. So we know the rounds of invitations that we had today. If we flip back here, 471 was the pass mark, and individuals that had submitted applications on March the 2nd, 2020, anything before March the 2nd, 2020 were given an ITA. That means there are a lot of people that submitted their profiles into Express Entry after 12:47 Universal Time on March the 2nd did not get pulled into this draw. Why? Because they cut it off at 4,200 even. Okay, so what does that mean? What is it going to take to get up to 469? Let's go back. The one area that makes the most difference, the quickest impact, is this. We take speaking, we bump speaking up to a 7.5. Let's recalculate. And then let's take a look at the score. 472. Okay? So one of your language abilities has to be pretty much maxed out. And 3 years of foreign work experience, master's degree, and yeah, that's pretty much it. You can't be older than 29 years old. So for those of you who are wondering about this and are thinking to yourself, wow, and okay, we're going to close this off. You can see here, right? You guys can see how difficult, how competitive it is. And that's why people who are able to come to Canada are getting somewhat of an advantage in this. But the reality is it's still super, super competitive. And even if those people are in Canada, they still need to have really good language scores. They have to have Canadian work experience or education in Canada, or they've got a family member. So you can see really how this plays out and what 472 really means. All right, so hopefully that was helpful for you guys. Okay, we're going to take now and we're going to shift gears, and I'm going to spend the rest of the time answering all the questions that you guys ask. You've been so good following, and I can see we've got questions coming in from Facebook, YouTube, which is great. Okay, so let's take a look here and let's start working down. Okay, so Firas says, living in Calgary, I want to know any news about PR, PNP. Okay, so obviously one of the realities that we have right now, Firas, is the fact that, and I'm going to actually take this and shrink this down just a little bit, make it a little bit smaller, but that's still okay. Everybody can see that. Okay, the PNPs, we don't have a lot of news. One thing we do know with the travel restrictions is that until they're lifted, until the social distancing is lifted, until things get back to normal, the PNPs are really reluctant to issue invitations or notifications of interest to individuals that are not already living in those provinces. And in some cases, like Alberta, they've indicated that they're actually going to reduce the total number of nominations they issue by 1/3. So many of the provinces are really unsure because they don't want a whole bunch of people piling into the province if they can't get a job. That's another reason why all of you outlanders that are outside of Canada who are waiting for your confirmations of permanent residence to be able to come to Canada, that's another reason why your applications have not been finalized. Now, obviously, there are other factors at play here. One of them is that some of the foreign visa offices just do not have staff in them. Many of the visa officers were repatriated back to Canada, and the foreign missions, the foreign Canada visa offices, where they process the passports and put the visas inside, finalize your confirmations of permanent residence, which is the last step before you can travel to Canada. All of that has been held in abeyance because of social distancing requirements, rules with respect to gathering in small spaces in all of the countries all over the world. So that's why things are going slow. All right. So when it comes to the PNP programs, that's one of the issues with it. You can see here that Firas says his file's 2 years processing, last update. And when it comes to the biometrics, and I can see here now that I actually need to shrink this down just a little bit, just a little bit more there. Maybe that is easier to see. Okay, so that's really where it's at. And ultimately, you will also notice, guys, that the biometric requirement, if you've completed it before, there's been a change in the express entry profile when you fill in the answers, as well as the EAPR. So the immigration history section now asks you if you have previously completed a biometrics for Canada, because in many cases they are now accepting those and not requiring you to go and get another set of biometrics if they've already obtained them for another purpose. So that's one good thing to point out. Okay. Okay, so this individual, and you're gonna have to tell me what your name is, Mixed Videos Mentor. Does it create an issue if I replace Wes report to ICAS? Because I just got married and my name on my Wes's previous one and on ICAS is updated. There's no issues with that. Like, you can easily explain that in a letter of explanation. So there's no issues with doing that. Now, if you've updated your Wes and you've got a better result with ICAS, they accept your masters when maybe Wes didn't. That's not a problem. Never worry about those things. Just explain in your letter of explanation when you're completing your application. Okay. So Tolulupe asks, hey, what's the best way over 40 to migrate to Canada? I'm going to click the bell, which, Tolulupe, you really need to book a consult so we can look at your whole history and see if there are possibilities. But I will tell you guys, as we just identified, if you are older, so 40, my goodness, like tomorrow's my birthday, I'll be 48 years old. I'm a 0 in Canada. And Tolulupe, you are getting some points for your 40 years of age, but you're losing a ton of points, which basically makes it almost impossible for you to immigrate through the regular express entry stream without some other connection to Canada. So lots depends upon occupation, your ability to get a job in Canada, and even people who are 40 or over who are considering studying in Canada are going to have a hard time, just because immigration knows that you're actually using it for the purposes of PR and not to improve your employment prospects in your home country. Okay. All right. And for those of you out there who are also, let me see, I've got another little feature here. I wonder if I've got it here set up. Hide comment. Hey, there we go. Haha, got another little feature here. So those of you who ask questions about, hey, Mark, how can I immigrate to Canada? What do I need to do to be able to do this? That's what I'm going to do, because you need to go over to my site, and I'm just learning a few different things here. You need to go over to Holthe Immigration Law, our website right here. And when you're at the home, and remember, all it is holthelaw.com. Once you're here, you click the Start Here button, and then you can go down and you can book a consult with any of the lawyers in our firm. Okay? I always want to keep reminding everybody about that. All right, let's continue on with more questions. Good morning to you, Manesh. All right. Tope says, hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás to you too? Now, I'm wondering if Tope is in Hong Kong. Okay. So Lal says, hey, how about talk about job offers? Well, do you know what? Let's do that. We can totally do that. So what is a job offer? Well, I'm going to take you right back to the website again. And this time we're going to pull up right here. We're going to call this offer of employment, EEIRCC, and that should take us to where I want to take us. So offer of employment. This is everything that you need to know about offers of employment. So what is one? There's a lot of confusion out there about what constitutes an offer for the purposes of express entry. Many clients that I've talked to have been confused about this. The most important thing you need to understand is that for an offer of employment to work, it needs to fit under one of three categories. And these are essentially them. So it must be by an employer with a new LMIA that approves the offer and names you in your position. What that means is the company that wants to extend the offer has gone through the process of advertising for your position, providing a wage that is at the prevailing wage rate for Canada. They have advertised, for the prescribed period of time. There's been no Canadian or permanent resident who is available or interested or willing to take the position. Then immigration, well, it's really ESDC, Employment and Social Development Canada, through the Service Canada arm of the Foreign Worker Program, issues the positive approved labor market impact assessment. And that LMIA that I'm showing here is designed to support just your permanent residents. So you can take that LMIA approval, check off that you have a job offer, and you get the extra 50 points if you are in a skill level 0A or B. And if you are in a skill level with a 00, then that as a senior executive can get you up to 200 extra points for a job offer. So that's option one. Option two is that you're currently working in Canada on an LMIA-based work permit. So you're already here, you're working, and your work permit names your employer, and it's an LMIA-based work permit, not an open one. And then the last one is if you're working on another, and you can see right here, employer-specific work permit. It's not LMIA, but it is through one of the work permit categories that names specifically your employer on your work permit. And not just that, you've worked for a full year, full time with that same company. So those are the only three times where you are actually going to have the ability to claim job offer points on your Express Entry application. Great question. Thanks, Lal. That was a good one. Okay. Hello, Medina. Elaine, good day from South Africa. Tolupi's in the UK. Great. Okay. Okay, here's a good question. Okay, and I love these because these are honest questions. So Saksham says, what's the point of us studying in Canada? It feels like students just waste their money. It's really tough for CEC candidates to score 471. So Saksham, I presume that for you, if you went to school, it would still be pretty tough to score 471. Understand, age is a big issue. But there are many, many people who come to Canada, not just for Express Entry. Like they're not just trying to become a permanent resident. They come to Canada to get a Canadian education and then use that to go home. And often international education in Canada provides greater employment opportunities in their home country. Saksham, that's why the study permit program exists. It's not designed to be a vehicle to transition international students into permanent residence in Canada. Now, with that being said, international students who've completed an educational credential in Canada are some of the best candidates that Canada could nominate, right? You've already got experience living in Canada. You've got Canadian education, which will make it easier for your job. Your language skills have got to be really good if you've made it through your university or college program in English. And so that's why Saksham. That's why people come to study. It's not designed as a mechanism for someone who's scoring too low on the CRS score to get an ITA through the general stream of Express Entry and then use those extra 15 or 30 points that you can get for international for being an international student in Canada and completing a credential. It's not designed for that process of getting those extra points to raise your CRS total. So that's why, Saksham. But I understand your position. I understand there's a lot of uncertainty. And in fact, I just had a consult with a client just the other day who came over from the Philippines. Their immigration consultant convinced them that it would be a good idea to basically have a fraudulent letter of financial support from a family member. And then they submitted that with the application. And lo and behold, after the first year of tuition was paid and the first year of school was done, they couldn't afford the second year because that family member didn't really have that money available to give them. And so then they're in a situation now where they're stuck. Yes, with the way the program worked out, they can get a 1-year open work permit as a postgrad, through the postgrad work permit program. But that 1 year is often not enough to then get them the full year of work experience, especially in the midst of a pandemic. So rule number one when it comes to studying, never study for anything less than 2 years, because if you are actually using that to become a permanent resident in Canada, you need the 3 years at least of open work permit to make sure you have enough time to qualify and to go through one of the PNP programs or actually get enough CRS points to qualify through express entry. Okay, so there's my take on that. Okay. Okay, so this is one, Samita, and in your situation, Samita, I'm also going to click on this, which means you need to book a consult. So you're asking specifically, what do you do? But let's try to generalize this, because I don't want people just to feel like I only am going to answer a question that's super easy and not complicated. Samita, I understand your situation. What she's asking is, my divorce isn't through. I'm assuming that is an ITA. You've got ITR there, but I'm assuming it's just a typo. And now you're asking how to justify, the fact that you're not divorced in your application. I'm assuming, at least my ITR has come. Not sure what that is. But anyways, basically, when you're in this type of a situation, you provide letters of explanation. One of the things when you are trying to indicate that you are legally separated, because remember, legal separation also removes your spouse and the need to obtain documents for that spouse. Unlike a non-accompanying spouse, when you're separated, you do not necessarily have to provide the police certificates and the immigration medicals because of course they're not going to cooperate with you. So what I often do, Samita, in these situations is I include proof that the divorce has been filed, that it's in the courts, that you're taking steps forward towards that. Now, not sure, you say it's in progress, but your husband isn't giving it to you. Well, there's a lot of different factors that we'd have to look at based on the country conditions, the court system, how it's structured. We would take all of that evidence to prove that your full intention is to move forward with that divorce and you are in fact legally separated, or separated sufficiently to constitute what we would consider legal separation in Canada. All right. So I recommend that you consider booking a consult, Samita, so that we can talk about that in more detail. Ahmed, hello from Egypt. Good to have you, my friend. Okay. Ems says, hey, may I know when will the immigration here in Canada do the processing papers for the family sponsorship? Guys, I just received an approval just yesterday. Now, these clients on the spousal side were in Canada, but the whole thing was processed in under 1 year. So it actually was completed, notwithstanding all of the delays. It was finalized before the 1 year mark, which is phenomenal. So even though all paper-based applications were all stuck, they're now starting to move forward. Now, for you guys with spouses outside Canada that are not able to reunite and you're applying under the family class, yes, there are still issues. And they're all the same issues that I already talked about with the foreign visa offices not having officers, the inability to process paper applications, and anything, which obviously, including the family class, that is a paper-based application. Those delays are going to continue to exist until things settle down. So I wish I had more for you, Ems, but that is the reality. If you're in Canada, then you can expect that your application is going to be processed. And it's interesting too, because there was no advance warning at all with this client. Simply put, I got an email that said, congratulations, you are a permanent resident of Canada. And so that's what they're doing now. No more in-person interviews to finalize the PR. Now, all they do is send out the email saying, congratulations, you're a permanent resident of Canada, and then requesting that you send your photo, your passport size photo, to be included on your PR card. That's it. Very interesting world we live in. Yes, it is. Okay, so this person says, hey, my score is higher than the cutoff draw. Excuse me. I think I need to get some water. That's what I need. I should have like have an intermediary break, right, for all of us, because this is so long. Okay, so my score is higher than the cutoff draw of today. I've not received anything yet. Be patient. It can take the whole day before you actually receive your ITA. So nothing unusual about that at all. Okay, and then we got people complaining. Okay. Yes, you don't need to submit so many questions. I will try to get through all of them. All right. Okay. Okay. I'm just trying to find ones that work the best here for us. Okay. Okay. So Kim says, hey, do you update IRCC about a change of address? Yes, I do. Absolutely. I do it through the web form. And for those of you who are wondering, what is the web form? Let's take a quick look here. Those of you who are wondering where you update your file after you've submitted it with immigration, I use the IRCC web form. That's the one that I search right here. And this is where you update your address information right here. So fill it in, provide your updated address, all this, and click submit or next, which then takes you to the field. Do you have documents to upload? No, you don't when you're updating your address, and then you finalize it. All right, good stuff. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, next one we have here. Okay, now we're getting to the people. 469, yes. These are all the people that are finally guessing what I'd indicated. So I'll give shout outs to the people who guessed correctly. So Rami, 469. Abdul was 469. Oh, this is fun. Good job, guys. Okay, let's see what else we have here. A lot of people were wrong. A lot of people were wrong. Okay. All right. Only 2, looks like. Got it right. Okay, Suresh says, hey, is there any information related to work permit applications from outside Canada, especially for Asian countries? Well, as far as anything, the work permits fall under the same categories as the PR. If you require a visa, there's delays. Now, they are operating for essential services, services in Canada that require foreign workers, like agriculture, our healthcare system, anything along those lines where it's a real critical need for the person to be there, critical infrastructure. They are processing work permits overseas, but there are not a lot of them because the officers are just simply not there in the numbers that allow them to do it. Okay. All right. So Feza asks an interesting question here. Okay. Hey, Mark, how are you? Okay. So Mrs. Fez is in France. Can I work remotely in a Canadian company from France, even if I still don't have a legal residence here? Of course. Like if you're in France, okay, can I work remotely in a Canadian company from France, even if I still don't have legal residence here? Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you're asking, but if you're saying that you live in France and you're working remotely for a Canadian company, yeah, there's nothing stopping you to do that at all. If you're in Canada, which I don't think is what you're saying here, and you're working for a French company that has no presence in Canada, then in some cases that also doesn't require a work permit. I've got lots of clients that are working remotely in this virtual world. So yeah, interesting question. I think I answered it. Okay, let's see who else we've got here. Okay, so Manuel says that they've got work experience in HR, received a master's equivalency, but my major was marketing. Will it create problems in the PNP and EE? My NOC says related degree such as business administration. Okay, this is a great question. I get this one a lot. What Manuel is asking here is whether or not the employment requirements listed in the NOC, whether or not you have to satisfy those in order to claim that work experience for express entry. And the answer is no. So if you go back to the federal skilled worker eligibility, I'll open up this page and I'll flip over here. Okay, if you go here to the eligibility to apply as a federal skilled worker, I'm not going to take you right to the act or regulations because that's where the source of this information comes from, the Immigration and Protection, the Immigration and Refugee Protection regulations. But we're just going to go right here. So to claim skilled work experience, which is what is being asked here, all you have to do is that show that you've been working in your primary occupation. While working in that primary occupation, you perform the duties set out in the lead statement and all the essential duties in the main duties listed. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, let's go here. Let's go to the NOC 2016, which is what we use, and we're going to pull up any occupation. Doesn't really matter. Let's take one that let's go with let's search by title here. Let's go cook. This is a good one. Okay, so let's just go by cook. We'll search and we'll pull up cook and we'll see what the requirements are. So if we choose cooks right here, each occupational profile that you look at has this part, which is the lead statement. So what does it say to be eligible? You must have performed the duty set out in the lead statement. That, guys, is this right here. So for a cook, prepare and cook a wide variety of foods, employed in restaurants, employed aboard ships, construction. So basically, you're a cook employed for pretty much anywhere. Now the next thing these are the main duties right here. Okay, so you have to, if you're flipping through this, you have to show that you must show that you worked in the primary occupation, performed the duty set on the lead statement, and this includes all the essential duties. And here's the problem that I have. Most of the main duties listed, the language in the Act says a substantial number of them, which if you want to try and figure out a numerical value, it would be right around 75%, right around that. So if we flip back here and we take a look at this, these are all the duties. So anything that says may, I do not consider an essential duty. Okay, so if we flip back here and we see all the essential duties and most of the main duties listed. So when I see may, and may, I don't count those towards the duties that you have to show that you've performed. So in essence, we have 1, 2, let's see if I can get this here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe 4 out of 5. What's that? 80%? So you need to show that you've actually performed these. But this is really where the question comes. But what about these employment requirements right down here? Well, when it comes to qualifying through express entry, immigration doesn't care. They don't care if your education matches what this NOC description says this occupation is supposed to have. This is for Canada only. If you're coming over to work as a cook in Canada on an LMIA-based work permit, or any work permit for that matter, this is what, well, let's focus strictly on LMIA. With an LMIA, if you don't have these requirements, you're not getting the work permit to come and work. So anytime it says is usually required, that means it's not mandatory, it's optional. So high school is optional, but you can see here, completion of a 3-year apprenticeship program, or if we jump down here, other program in cooking, or several years of commercial cooking experience may be required. So no longer is the actual years of commercial cooking experience required to be a cook in Canada. And so this is still a may. It used to be are required. But if you go down here, you'll see September the 14th, 2020, this was updated. So this is where you guys have to realize that there are changes that happen all the time, and that's one that's taken place. And then you can see here, trade certification is available, red seal endorsement, blah, blah, blah. We don't really care about that. But what I'm getting at is employment requirements right here are not mandatory when you're applying to claim foreign work experience. Okay, simple as that. All right, hopefully that one helped with that question. All right, let's keep zipping down here. And today I have to make sure that I end a little bit early because I have my conference call with immigration today with the federal government departments. We have a bunch of questions, including lots with FAC, which is the Public Health Agency of Canada. And they're the ones who determine really who comes in with the travel restrictions and what they have to do in terms of quarantining and things like that. So, all right, let's continue zipping through here. Okay, same thing, Kim. We told you how to update. That's great. Okay, teachers. Since there's a high demand for teachers, there's no high demand for teachers in Canada. There is not. So, yeah, understand that. Yeah, the reality is here, Diana, that teachers are not in demand right now. So in terms of an open work permit without a job offer, well, the only way you're going to get an open work permit is if you have studied or your spouse is working or studying in Canada. Okay, Maji says, simple question, is it possible to change the province other than the one on the COPR when landing? That depends entirely on what type of express entry or provincial nominee program you've been qualified under. Any person who's been nominated, you cannot change whatsoever. You are supposed to go to that province and demonstrate that you are intending to live there. That can unravel your whole application. If no matter what you listed, like Other than Quebec, you also can't list Quebec for express entry. But for other provinces, you're not locked in to go to the province that you've listed in your general express entry application form. It's only when you've got a provincial nomination or you have to avoid Quebec for the general express entry process. Okay, zipping through here. Okay, Simply says you can be older than 29 if you have a relative with PR. Yeah, of course you can. Just like I said, any connection with Canada is going to change that calculation. So if you've got a sibling, that's 15 points. If you have a job offer, like I said, extra points. If you take a French test, you're going to get extra points. So, well, if you score high enough on the French test. Okay, Crazy Warheart says, pre-ITA, I've added my wife's work experience, didn't claim points. And now it's getting hard to get the experience letter post-ITA. What can I do about it? Well, just explain. You know, obviously in every situation, if you've got a spouse's work history, you're not getting any points for it as you've identified, but it does open up a spot for you to indicate the work experience and to prove it with a reference letter. So I will often provide a letter of explanation, and depending upon the circumstances, when I do the EAPR, sometimes I actually remove the spouse work history altogether, but rarely do I do that, only in exceptional circumstances. Usually I'll provide an explanation, a letter of explanation saying we can't get it. Excuse me, but we were not claiming any points anyways. Okay, we'll zip through here. Okay, so Matt says, hey, what happens if Knox states MA is usually required? My friend, ignore all of that. We already talked about that. Employment requirements are not an issue. Okay, Rohit says, my spouse is secondary applicant. She's a government teacher. This is one where I'm going to click on this right now because I need a lot more information to make sure I'm giving you the proper advice. You say she's a government teacher. In personal history, what should I select under activity? Did you list it as work history? If you list it as work history, then I list it as employment in the personal history. And in most cases, you would. Okay, this is awesome. Face Father Universe. Nice. You look stressed. Well, I don't feel stressed today. Not now. Not that my stream is working. Okay. Let's see what we have next here. See, I post all comments. No respecter of persons. Okay. Okay, and then some of you are asking very specific questions about your situation. If I've skipped you, then if I've skipped you, then understand that it's because you're asking a question that is really one along these lines. All right, let's see what else we got here. And if you're also asking about, can I qualify or do I have what it takes to be eligible? Those are also specific questions. All right, so this is a really interesting one. So the sworn translator in my country do not give affidavits because they are sworn and certified by authorities. What should I do? Take whatever steps you need to do to comply as closely as you possibly can with the immigration requirements. Remember, express entry doesn't care. If they say you need something, they don't care. You're to do it in exactly the way that they've asked. If you can't meet those requirements, then the risk is on you that they may reject it. Remember, your job is to conform with what they're asking, not the other way around. But sometimes we can find ways around it, but we'd need to talk and get a lot more information about that if that's the direction we're going to proceed. Okay, now we're moving on. Okay. Some of these are quite long. Okay, so here we go. This is a good question. So Gail says, I'm not quite sure I understand the tie-breaking rule. Does it mean that only people who have been in the pool before March 2nd are being considered? Or can you be invited with a score of 480 if you entered the pool after March 2nd? Thanks in advance for your advice. Great question. I love that one. Let's shift over here. Let's go to the rounds of invitations. I think I've got them. Let's see. Maybe I'll pull it up again. There it is. Okay. So when it comes to this, it is only people that are at 471 that are affected by the tiebreaker rule. So what that means is anyone who has 471 had the potential of getting an invitation to apply, but because they cut it off at 4,200, that was basically, they didn't have room to include everybody that had a score of 471. So only people that submitted their application, their profile before March the 2nd, 2020, and had a score of 471 got an invitation to apply. Everybody that had a 471 that submitted after March the 2nd, or anyone with a lower CRS score below 471, none of those people received an ITA. But if you scored 472 or higher, everybody above 471 receives an ITA. Because, why? Because this is a no program specified draw. So it even includes people with PNPs. All right. Okay, jump back here. Good question, Gail. Thanks. All right. Okay, so Ronald says, hey, me and my spouse, the application for sponsorship says it will be completed December 20th from the CIC account. Is this going to be accurate? Well, it all comes down to whether or not you guys are living together. Are you guys living together in Canada? If you are, I think there's a real good chance it's going to happen, because my client submitted their application in December of last year, and their application, I received an approval notice. So confirming they are PR. So I think it's very, very likely. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Mohammed's asking about judicial review. Can I file a JR if the refusal letter has more than 6 months? No, you need to, there are always exceptions and reasons to explain why through the pandemic they delayed the limitation period. So often we need to look at this in a lot more detail, but the time limit is really quick with filing judicial reviews. Depending upon where it was at, you really need to move quickly if you're going to do that. Doing it that far later or after the fact, in most cases, you're not going to be able to do that. Okay, all right. Moving on. Okay. What to do if the biometrics letter received and VFS is closed and is uncertain when it will open? Immigration has repeatedly said, Joe, that you're not going to be punished because of that. So if for whatever reason you can't complete the biometrics, immigration is not going to prejudice you. Now, you may want to submit a web form, like I indicated before, saying that you're having trouble getting it. And in many cases, immigration is going to, delay and give you time to get it once the biometrics is open. So I would just submit a web form if they've said you need to complete it in a certain period of time, just to notify them that you can't do it. That is your insurance. Okay. Yep. So Abbas, I just indicated they are definitely pushing them forward because I got an approval. And so, yes, the minister now is prioritizing spousal sponsorships. And I also want you guys to understand that there are only so many officers to go around. So if you are saying now we're going to put emphasis on spousals, well, they have to pull those officers from somewhere. They're not just hiring brand new officers to do these. So that means by its very, very nature, another application is going to be longer, and it's going to take longer for that cohort of applicants to be processed. So something always has to give. And yes, they are working on spousals. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Monmohan says, can an applicant in the CEC category also add a spouse in the application? Sure, if you get married, you can add. If you're submitting it through CEC at the very beginning, yeah, you can include your spouse. Even if they're not here in Canada, you can. One key thing, though, is that you're never going to list someone you're married to. You're never going to fail to disclose them to immigration if you're starting your PR application. So you're never going to be in a situation where you say, well, I don't want my spouse to come. She's going to drag my points down, so I'm just not going to mention her. Don't ever do that. Because if you do, you could be barred from sponsoring them forever. Okay. Yeah, and this is another good question here, Christian. International students is just a complete mess. It is. So I don't have any information at this stage as to what's going to happen in the new year. There's so much uncertainty. This is one area that's been unbelievably problematic. Maybe I'll learn a little bit more here in a few minutes when I jump on the call with immigration. Okay. Emeka, no word right on expired COPRs. Yes, the affiliate program, my friend Emeka, is still working. So those of you who are wondering what Emeka is talking about, and this is something I haven't talked a lot about. If you look in the description for this, you'll see that there is a link to my Express Entry DIY guide. And I've had some people who've, one person in particular that complained just a little while back that said, oh, one of your videos was done, in 2016 and I want my money back. Well, immigration, all of the programs that have changes, substantial changes, all of the videos have been updated. I never updated videos that didn't need updating. And so ultimately, this is a complete DIY course to doing it yourself. And what Emeka is talking about is, let's see if I have it here. This is where you can go, the Canadian Immigration Institute. You click on See All Courses, and then here you go to Purchase Now, and you can actually try it for free as well. But if you punch in here the code EEDIY50 and click Apply, it will give you 50% off, and you can access the whole course for $248.50. And so that's kind of how this is structured. Now, if we go back here and we select Learn More, I think it's on this page. Those of you who have used the course yourself, have benefited from it, love it, have the ability to become an affiliate. And it's right here called the referral program. So all you have to do is click here to sign up, and then you can start earning 30% of the fee that another person basically pays to purchase the course. So I haven't really advertised that before. That's an interesting one. That's a new one. Okay. So yeah, as always, our these Express Entry DIY courses are all, they pull all of this information that I'm sharing with you right now and walk you through step by step every aspect of the Express Entry process. And it's interesting because right now, one of the changes that just occurred was the question about biometrics. So you'll see now in the immigration history section, when you're filling out your personal information, whether it's you as the principal applicant or your spouse, it asks if you've ever done a biometrics before. And then that's telling the government, okay, we probably don't need to ask this person to go and do them again. So that's one of the advantages. And that's not in one of my videos because they just made that change just like within the last week or two here, probably the last week. All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up today. As always, this has been so much fun. I love doing this. It has just been one of the highlights of my week. And when I know I'm not stressing about whether or not this feed is working, it just makes life, so much better because I hate disappointing people. Now, there's a lot of you who posted questions that I didn't get to today. Always, always remember, guys, that if you have a question that was specific to you, personal question, you need to make sure that you go book a consult right here where we can dive in deep, get all the facts that I need to really advise you and really give you advice that you can rely upon. That's why we do it. For the rest of you, if you had questions that weren't answered and you have a whole string of them that you'd like me to respond to, a consult is the best way to do that as well. So take that into consideration. Go to holthelaw.com, click on the Start Here button right here, and that will take you to where you can book a consult with either myself or Susan or Alicia, who are all highly experienced immigration lawyers and would be delighted to work with you. Now, one last thing before I close off and jump on my call, my bi-weekly conference call with immigration and the border officers and now Public Health Affairs Canada. Before I jump on that call, because I think a lot of you know now that I'm the chair of the national immigration section of the Canadian Bar Association, which is a mouthful, which is our immigration lawyer organization across the country. And I have the privilege of being the chair this year, which is an unbelievable honor and privilege, serving my fellow members and all of you, really lobbying the government, talking about the problems. And guys, the things that you share with me, your frustrations, the challenges, I take that information and I use it when we're talking with the government. Your experience, I relay the frustrations to immigration, and then at times we create submissions that say, hey, you might want to look at changing this or this because you may have intended this to happen with your legislative change, but in reality, this is how it's affecting people on the ground. So international students are one of those real issues that we're dealing with among all of the other travel restrictions, the processing delays, and it's in these weekly meetings, bi-weekly meetings that we get our updates. All right. So I'm going to end here. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. This was just another amazing live Q&A. Stay tuned you're going to see a video. I don't think I'm going to do it live, but I'm bringing on my good friend, Betsy Kane. Watch in the YouTube feed. I have a new playlist called Immigration Nation, And that's where I highlight just some awesome immigration lawyers across the country. We're going to be talking about a bunch of things pandemic in our video today, and I'm hopefully going to have it released today. So watch for that. It's not going to be live, but it will be awesome. Thanks so much for watching, and I wish you guys all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call Canadian immigration. See you later.